Hey, Gary's Gulch, welcome back. So we're going to talk today about life insurance policy loans and what makes them so special. Why are they so magic? I get questions from clients all the time. My least favorite are when they've been clients for 2 or 3 years. Not that they're asking me the same question again. It's that I realize that they've gone to some source, probably YouTube, maybe TikTok, and they say, hey, I'm excited to use my policy loan. I'm like, great. What are you going to do? You're going to invest in something? You're going to start a business? No, I just want to use the loan. I want to get this thing going because my life insurance policy doesn't really do much for me until I kick on the rockets by using that loan. Like, I don't understand how it works, but that loan is going to make me wealthy. And I'm so frustrated at my industry. All these guys who didn't even probably finish high school, who are out there talking half-truths to the clients and getting them down this distracted path where they start to not trust anybody. And that's so incredibly frustrating. This process is not hard. And spoiler alert, it is not the darn loan that is causing this thing to work so well and turn families around and allow them to better understand their personal finances, get on a path where they grow dependable, predictable wealth with certainty. So we'll talk about that. Leading up to that, though, I want to sprinkle in some 2026 250th anniversary stuff into each of these episodes. And so this one comes from a special place in my heart because this is a speech, part of a speech from Admiral Hyman G. Rickover. So everyone who has been in the nuclear power world knows Hyman Rickover, especially if you're in nuclear submarines or the nuclear navy on surface ships. Because Hyman Rickover was the father of our industry, and he actually helped create the original nuclear power plants in America. I don't think he had very much to do with nuclear bombs in America, but he certainly helped our country understand how to harness the energy and win the Cold War. So he was speaking 50 years ago, a couple months over, in November of 1975, right before the bicentennial, and he even references that in here. But as we're doing today, America was reflecting on what has made America great for this long period of time and what are those risks out there that cause this to fall apart, us to unravel, and the wheels to come off the bus, the freight train that is America. In this 250-year-old now experiment where some guys got together, put their own lives on the line and said, we believe that all freedoms come from God. They are inalienable rights that we have received from our Creator when we were put on this planet. And since those rights are ours of life, liberty, and property, then we can pursue business. We can pursue real property ownership. We can live the life freely that we want to live within the constraints of society, meaning that community, and not taking the rights of others away. But as long as we're living our lives and not harming others, then the belief back then was that we should remain free and in control of our own life, liberty, and property. And that experiment has been incredible. So what Hyman G. Rickover, Admiral Rickover, was going over here was what is important about this and what are the risks of things that we may lose along the way. So Admiral Rickover says, let me summarize where I think we are. The classic concept of self-regulating, a free market economy, and a complex modern society no longer enforces the required high standards of ethical business conduct. Those who advocate exclusive reliance on the market do a disservice to capitalism. I want to repeat that. Those who advocate exclusive reliance on the market do a disservice to capitalism, since the result often is increased government intervention, the very antithesis of their goal. This really hit home to me when I was reading it today on LinkedIn. And the reason I think is because of all of the fraud and grift that has occurred in Minnesota that we're all now very familiar with. And so I'll pick back up. On the other hand, destruction of capitalism and the establishment of complete state control are inimical to economic and political freedom. Businessmen must do more than merely seek to preserve the freedom to make money. The unrestrained pursuit of profit is the heart of the problem. It cannot form a part of the solution. They should seek a higher purpose. They should restore ethical behavior to business practice. In recent years, he writes, there has been much talk about the need for businesses or businessmen to accept social responsibility and help solve critical national problems. Too often, however, they appear to conceive of social projects as substitutes for ethical or moral practice. These projects are not substantive, but only the familiar panoply of business relations. And the public has become skeptical of such gimmicks. They would be far more sympathetic if more businessmen demonstrated by their actions the determination to conduct their affairs ethically. Our bicentennial should remind us that the leaders of our revolutionary period showed that the individual can make a difference. These men, properly honored by the title Founding Fathers, valued freedom and culture more than wealth. They brought fundamental honesty to the business of government and dealt with their valued countrymen in frank and open terms. They lived by the ideals they propounded. They lived by the ideals they propounded. The Declaration of Independence was no idle statement for them. In support of it, they pledged, and some lost, their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. Through their beliefs and individual deeds, our revolutionary leaders stirred their fellow countrymen to struggle and sacrifice for independence. More important, they set a moral tone and example for their age and for ours. It is my hope, he said, the American legacy will be more than a business structure whose major objective is attainment of wealth, more than a facility for self-serving public relations, more than a highly developed advertising industry with its propensity to image making. I hope America's legacy will be the accommodation of the forces of capitalism, democracy, and morality in a highly industrialized society. Such a rich legacy would be worthy of a great nation. Admiral Rickover had it penned. He understood very well and taught all of us that were in the nuclear navy that there's nothing that matters more than morality and ethics when you're taking the fight to the enemy, when you are building a country that stands on fairness, on human rights, and a judicial branch. Our country was founded on the idea that the government's job is to protect the people and allow the people to thrive and prosper. But that only works when we have a shared ideal about what ethical business operations are, that we're seeking a higher moral level, we're seeking a higher level of community involvement, and not just pure personal wealth. Those who seek only wealth have demonstrated to us throughout American history and world history that the whole thing comes crumbling down because the community and the country loses its soul. It loses its entire soul. We lose our way, we lose what we're doing, but more importantly, we lose our actual core. We lose our soul and our reason for being a country, and it just goes away. So there was so much of that statement, that speech, that resonated with what we're seeing happening in America today. And I'm not just trying to beat up on the left. I see it everywhere in America. People are quick to make a dollar. They're quick to say part of the truth, not the whole truth. They don't take the time to teach, to explain fully what they're talking about. People in my industry do it too. And so this leads actually right into what I wanted to talk to you about how the strength of a whole life insurance infinite banking policy, or any whole life insurance product, is not the loan. But you hear it all the time. People always talk about the loan. It's not the loan. Here are some examples I just pulled up very quickly when I said, what is the magic about life insurance policy loans? And so here are some of the videos that you can go right now and go find. Mastering Infinite Banking, Life Insurance Policy Loans Explained, The Power of Policy Loans of the Infinite Banking Concept. Where are some more? The secrets behind the whole life insurance policy loans. And they just keep going on and on. So my great mentor, great friend, Todd Langford, who has a company called Truth Concepts, His job, his calling, is to make sure all of us in our industry protect the industry and its reputation, or maybe restore it at this point, but do so by understanding the actual math and understanding how to explain the whole truth. He always brings up this thing that he didn't coin this phrase, but there's something that it's to the effect of a lie can travel around the globe before the truth even gets its pants on. Because it takes a long time to explain the whole truth. But it's super quick and easy to put a little soundbite out there that's part of it. It's got an inkling of the truth in it, and it's catchy, and people dig into it and they're like, oh yeah, that's what I want. This whole thing of velocity banking, pay off your mortgage in 7 years, and all of these things that talk about part of the truth, but they are typically used to sell a education program, a package, and it puts the people in a worse position because they didn't go through the whole math and didn't understand what was fully required to actually implement those kinds of things. So what is it about infinite banking, when practiced correctly, causes people to put their family on a better path and get moving along this sustainable generational path of growing and maintaining wealth? There's a few different elements, but specifically having to do with the loan that we always hear about. It's not the loan, it's the cash value. The strength of the cash value is what makes life insurance policy, infinite banking style operations effective. And you could do it with something outside of a life insurance policy. It's just nowhere near as convenient or financially rewarding. You could clearly do it with gold coins sitting in a safe in your house. The concept is that you set up your liquidity in a place where it's safe, liquid, and guaranteed to always be there, and then create a mechanism in which you can borrow against it in the form of a loan and allow your money to continue to grow in its environment. Now, gold doesn't grow sitting in a safe. Yeah, it goes up in US dollar denominated currency. But the only reason it's doing that is because the dollar is going down in value because we're printing and inflating away its value. But no one pays you or rents your gold from you. Your gold doesn't multiply and you wake up the next day and there's more of it there. But because the insurance companies have a 200-year track record of taking your capital and putting it to work safely in the economy, lending it out to large corporations, real estate developers, and other businesses that want to access capital for decades at a time. An insurance company is looking to lend out millions of dollars for decades because they want to tie the length of their asset to the length of their liability. Their liability is paying my family when I pass away, and I'm hopeful that will be decades down the road. And if I have anything to say about it, which of course I do, getting back on the treadmill, right? It will be decades down the road. And so the insurance company needs to put that money to work for a long period of time. So it's not the loan, it's the cash value. What is so important about the strength of life insurance policy cash value? Why is it that life insurance policy cash values have such amazing, secret, special properties, right? Why do they get these magic properties? You're telling me I can borrow against my cash value and my money continues to grow and I don't even have to pay back the interest. And why is it that I get these super low interest rates? None of this stuff is magic. Here's my example for you. I use this with my clients quite often and it seems to resonate. So here we go, Gary's Gulch. Let's say that you and I are next door neighbors, best friends, grew up together, we know each other, we've got each other's back. You and your spouse are headed off to Fiji. You're gonna go to Fiji and have an amazing vacation. And it's a long one, so you don't travel a lot outside the US, so you did some special accommodations and you thought about this and you did some preparation. And yeah, you're a little bit nervous about it, and so maybe you're going a little overboard. We say goodbye the evening before in a fun dinner, and we're gonna wave at you leaving the next day. And you said you'll honk on your way out. Instead of honking on your way out, about the time you're supposed to leave, the doorbell in our house is ringing in a panic mode, and I come out and you're like, Gary, I have a crisis. The $20,000 that we have in our house in the safe, we've just realized we're not comfortable leaving with that money in the safe. Would you please take our $20,000 worth of gold and hold it in your safe? Because we know that your house is occupied and you have a good alarm system and a good dog. And so we feel much more comfortable with the money in your house. And I say, of course. And they take their briefcase with the money in it, or the case, and they put it inside our safe and they head off with much more relief, and they're off on their way. And we hear from you when you make it to Fiji and you're having a great time. About day 3, you call up and you say, gosh, there is a once in a lifetime experience that we're going to do while we're in Fiji. I don't know exactly what it is, but let's say that it's go on an exotic cruise ship, or maybe you're going to put money down. Let's do this. You're going to put money down on a forever vacation home that you have there, and you need $10,000 as the down payment. And for whatever reason, you can't get it wired to Fiji. And you say, Gary, would you please wire me the $10,000? Now, normally when somebody asks me to wire them money, I would ask a bunch of questions. What are you going to use it for? When am I going to get it back? Is there any collateral that I could use, that I could have some confidence that I'm going to get the money back? But in this case, I say, sure. What's the routing number and the account number I need to wire to? Now, why in the world would I do that? Because I have your money sitting in my safe, and it's more than I'm about to lend out to you. So I don't care when and how you pay it back, if you ever pay it back. I've still got your gold as the collateral, right? So that's the exact same thing that life insurance companies do when you borrow against your policy. They don't ask you what you're going to do with it, why you're borrowing it, when you're going to pay it back, and they don't make you pay the interest-only kind of payments that a bank would require if you went to them to borrow against the policy. And so hopefully that's helpful. They know, the insurance company knows that your policy is guaranteed to go up by more than the policy interest is being charged on the other side. So your money is going to grow by more than your policy loan is going to grow. Why is that? Because they have a guaranteed increase and a dividend that has been paid for 200 years. And so they have a pretty good track record that they know pretty close to the penny almost what it's going to go up. The other thing is you're still adding cash to it in the early years. So you're making contributions. So your contributions, the insurance company's dividend, their guaranteed increase that they put into the cash value every year, those combined is more than the interest rate on that, or the interest that is earning on the policy. So even if you make no payments for years, your policy is going to do absolutely fine. So hopefully that helps you understand that there's no magic to the policy itself. There's no magic to the policy loan itself. It's not like because they like us so much that we get this secret loan. I used to watch the series Night Agent, and there was this guy who was in a special secret room in the basement of the White House, and there was one phone, and if the phone rang, he picked up the phone. But everybody pretended like the night agents didn't exist. It was super secret. Okay, and I almost feel like sometimes that's what my clients think, or people I talk to think is happening with policy loans. Oh, I want this policy. Why do you want a policy? Because I want access to that magic loan. I want to be able to call that special number that only policyholders get and get that special, cool, secret magic loan. Nothing magic about the loan. The power is in the cash value. The power is in the fact that policy has for a couple of hundred years gone up in value, guaranteed every year. These insurance companies have never failed to pay, even a dividend, which is not guaranteed, but they've never failed to pay off the family when the individual passes away. They've never failed to raise the cash value, at least at that guaranteed minimum amount every year. That policies have been in place since the beginning of America. So the power, the strength is in that cash value. So what can you do with these policies if they're so strong? Stronger than gold, I would say, because gold denominated in US dollars has gone down, obviously, in the past. Over a long period of time, gold's amazing. It's a little hard to carry around. It's a little dangerous to just carry out in the open. But gold has maintained its value throughout world history, and it probably will into the future. Life insurance policy cash values have actually been stronger because they have never gone down in value in America. So that strength allows you to do pretty much anything you want with these things. There are a whole host of different businesses, banks, insurance companies, that hedge funds that will lend you money against this policy or buy the policy from you. So it opens up an entire plethora of things you can do with the policy cash value, because the cash value will support you along the way. There's concepts called living your life insurance. You can use the life insurance to turn it into an annuity in the future. You can use it to back up maybe getting a reverse mortgage on your house in the future. You can use it to pledge as collateral or capital for any kinds of things, loans on real estate to go do your business. And it's because of the strength of the cash value. It's not because there's some magic fine print that allows insurance companies to do loans in ways in which banks and other people cannot do. The strength comes from the backing of these insurance companies, the mechanism in which they slowly grow the money predictably, safely, with certainty over the lifetime of the insured individual. Here's the other thing that causes life insurance policies to have this consistent long-term growth. It's not just where they put the money to work with sustainable companies for long-term performance to get predictable money back. It's not just that. There's also something called actuarial science that's operating in the background. And what that means is the insurance companies pool their own risk and are able to do things like provide life insurance, term insurance even, when if you passed away at a young age, it would wipe your family out, but for a few dollars a year, the insurance company doesn't get wiped out. Why don't they get wiped out? Because you were the one unfortunate young person that passed very early, but there are many people that pass at the normal life expectancy, and even quite a few that pass way after that. And that allows the insurance company to offset their risk, right? It's called pooled risk. There's a pool of people, lots of us, in this age group that have life insurance policies with this company, and so they can pool the risk, and it doesn't beat them up if somebody happens to go early, where it would wipe us out personally, our family out personally, if we were that one unfortunate one that did pass away. The same thing happens with car insurance and homeowners, and so all these insurance companies are staying in business and profitable because of the concept of having smart math guys called actuaries figure out how often is this going to happen, and then pool that risk so that the few times that it does happen statistically like they said it was going to, doesn't hurt the insurance company. And that also helps, though, when we get further out into the age of the insurance the insurance policy, just like it helps with annuities. So an annuity, for example, is your personal pension system. Essentially, you can exchange an amount of money for a guarantee that you can't outlive the money. So what happens is that when people do pass away a little bit earlier in the annuity world, that means that the insurance company now has more money. They can stretch the money further to pay you and your family if you happen to last a longer period of time. So what's happening is that these insurance companies, Mass Mutual, New York Life, Penn Mutual, Northwestern Mutual, so the big mutual and companies, they're doing both annuities and insurance policies. And so there really is no scenario, everybody dies early. That would be bad, right? Everybody gets fountain of youth and lasts 30 years beyond what we expect. It doesn't really matter. The insurance company is operating this old school seesaw that you had when you were a kid in the playground, where you're the first one that sits on it, the thing flops down on your side, and now it doesn't work very well. But you put somebody the same size, or two or three people that equivalent the same weight, then you can kind of balance and seesaw. And so the insurance companies make really certain that they have an equivalent amount of risk on the insurance side and the annuity side. Annuities protect them in case you live a really long time. The insurance policies protect them if somebody passes early. They work against each other, balance each other, just like a seesaw, to keep the insurance companies going. So those are some of the mechanisms and the methods in which insurance companies have over the years learned how to protect themselves from those black swan kind of things. 9/11, when 9/11 happened, the insurance companies that insured the individuals, life insurance companies that insured the individuals who died during that tragic event, didn't go out of business. In fact, they didn't even have to dig into what's called their reserves to pay. They paid with operating capital from those from 2001, 2002, when they had the claims come in. And I don't mean to make that sound like the insurance companies are evil, wealthy, overcharging companies. They're not. In fact, mutual companies, there is no they. The they is us. My clients get caught up all the time and they'll say, oh, that's because the insurance company, because they have to make money. How much did they make and how much did I get? They is us. The insurance company pays the employees' salaries. They pay the operating expenses to keep the lights on and do the marketing and pay for the lab tests that have to happen for us to get insured. And then after that, all the money goes to us, the owners of the life insurance policies. So when I said that they were able to pay things out with annual operating expenses, it just shows the strength and the conservative nature in which they assume how much they may have to pay out this year. That's why they pay dividends at the size that they do, because at the end of each year so far in America, even 9/11, they've realized, wow, we didn't have to save back as much as we thought. Gosh, aren't we overly conservative? Let's pay that back to our policy owners, and then we're just going to do it again next year, because they are in their nature conservative. I want to close this out with, I hope you got something out of Admiral Rickover's comments about very timely, I thought, conversation or message as we go through all of this fraud across the United States that's happening with people who get greedy, and it's in the animalistic nature of humans. Get greedy and think, I'm going to get mine. I'm going to get some extra cash here. No one will ever find out. So that's sadly in human nature of those of us who are not grounded closely and pay attention to and listen to our Maker. unfortunately. So it's somewhat in our nature, and we need to understand that. But we need to hold it in check. And the way we hold it in check and get it back into a check in the case of what we're going through in America today in January of 2026 with fraud rampant across many major cities in America and states in America, is that we bring back into this the concept of community, where we are holding each other accountable and where we show examples in our community and with those around us and our families, our kids that are growing up underneath us, why it is so important what Admiral Rickover said, that you can't just chase wealth and profits. You have to chase a higher meaning, morality, and ethics to be able to have America and our democracy mean something around the globe. America means something. And President Trump, God save him, God protect him. President Trump has done an amazing job of making America well respected around the globe in just under a year. I can't wait to see what happens over a 4-year period of time. And hopefully if things shine on us in 2028, we're able to keep conservative values going in America and strengthen this country. And after a decade of focus on that, we'll be good for another 250, I promise you. So thanks so much for listening to this episode, getting excited about the 250th celebration like I'm getting excited, and for just thinking a little bit deeper when somebody says, oh, those life insurance policies, man, those have magic loans. Those things are unbelievable. It's not the policy loan. It's the cash value. And really at the root of it is the strength of the insurance companies, their track record, and the way in which they ethically go about business practices of prudently putting the money to work and making it available when the people need it. Thanks so much, and I can't wait to talk to you again next week about our 250th celebration, life, liberty, and property. Let's go, America.